Good morning. Our hand today is going to be pocket threes. We are six-handed at a 5NL game. Folds around to me. I open raise. I'm going to be pretty wide. Players look to be fairly tight. 22-13, 24-18. I'd say tight, relatively speaking, for a 5NL game. We got a fold to steal 100%, 2 out of 2. Fold to steal 60%, 6 out of 10. So I'm going to just attack. I raise and I get called by the big blind, where 3-bet is 3%, 1 out of 38. He calls 39%. So I think he's going to be calling fairly wide. Not really going to raise much. So I'm going to give him all the ace X hands, suited kings, connectors, suited connectors, suited one gappers, offsuit connectors down to 7-6, Broadway, and so forth, and your pocket pairs, of course. And we take a flop of ace, king, jack. Now that's actually pretty good for us. It hits our range pretty hard. We have aces, we have kings, we have jacks, we have ace, king, we've got ace, queen, king, queen, queen, jack. We've got all these hands along with the clubs. So we're going to be playing this aggressively. Villain 5 checks. No big surprise. He does donk 13%, but I don't really think this is a board to donk. If they were more disconnected, I think he might take a shot at betting like an ace X hand, maybe even like a king hand. But these are pretty connected, so I don't expect him to be donking here. I see bet half pot. That could actually be a little too large. I think I could get by with betting like betting like 2.5. Yeah, betting on the smaller side. If villain's gonna call, he's still gonna call half pot as he will with the smaller size. If he's gonna fold, I think he's gonna fold the smaller size just as frequently as he's gonna go for the larger size. We could go larger too, but at least with our hand, I think it's going larger doesn't make a huge amount of sense given the board texture. His fold c-bet 78% went out of position, so fairly high, and that means I think we're going to probably be betting, virtually 100% here. I know GTO, it doesn't say that we should be, but I think at this point we're just being exploitative. So that includes like all of our backdoor flush draws. We've got all of these hands that, again, we're just betting as a bluff. Pocket pair below the board's going to be as a bluff. We're just betting everything because I think he's going to be folding a lot on this board. He's going to be afraid of an ace. He's going to be afraid of a king. It could be a club draw, straight draws. There's a lot of hands he's going to be scared of. So he calls. I think straight's going to be out because I think he would probably check raise it here. Check raise because of the flush that's on the board. I think a set could call. A set might actually wait to raise the turn. 2-pair, top pair. I think maybe if he's going to call a pairs, he's probably going to be calling, down to the bottom pair. I could see him folding these 2s to 10s. We'll call with a gut shot. The queens. I think we'll call with those. So 68%. So even though he folds 78%, he does have quite a few calling range, so he's probably closer to 32%, which means we probably shouldn't be betting 100% of our range here. So I think that could be a mistake. 7 of clubs connects. Villain checks again. I think when villain checks, we can look at what hands is he going to fold now. I think if we fire out, he's going to call with that flush draw. With the lone club, that's for sure. He could call with the weaker flushes. We'll do those. Let's color those up. We'll do our queen. We will not. Oh, that's an open-ended. Ooh. That's all of our queens. He's calling. He's going to call with a lot if we think he's going to call with the gut shot. We take out the gut shot. That changes it a bit. Just, it's the breakdown of what I call value versus draw. It's still 98.5%, so it doesn't really matter what we're doing. So 7 of clubs, I bet. Is my hand a bet here? I think we go for bluff potential. So I think we've got, if we go back and look at like all of his draws, like the gut shot included all of these hands with the queen, and he has a pair, so I don't really think they're necessarily value. I think we've got middle pair 18% and then 40%, so I think he kind of has quite a few. Just, you know, you get rid of the flush draws, we're looking at maybe 25% for the flush draws for the open-enders, and then maybe 18%. So I think it's kind of close to bet to where he's going to be folding quite a bit. So because of that, I think we could probably, if we check here, what hands does he bet on the river? That's the question. If I think he is aggressive enough to where we check, he fires out a bet with like basically any pair, then I think we can check our top pair, 2-pair set type hands on a non-club river. So we don't have anything with a probe. He sees a river. So if he makes it to the turn, so he sees the showdown at 67% if he's on the river. I think he's probably getting ready to fold, so I think we're going to have to be minimizing our value. So I think our weak pairs are going to be used as bluffs. I don't really think we have a whole lot of showdown value hand. I think we've got our nut flush draw with the ace. No, I'm sorry, the queen. I think we're betting that. We actually have quite a few hands there. Our value, we're going to be betting a flush. We're going to be betting probably a straight and maybe a set. I think 2-pair could be too close. So that means then we're checking these types of hands, the no-made hands, something like that, checking 61% because I think he's going to be calling. And we don't really, we're protecting these hands with our top pair, middle pair, because if we check and he bets, we're going to probably call as long as this river cards isn't too scary. So by too scary, I mean a 10, a club, which is going to be a lot of, quite a few hands, quite a few runouts. So I did bet. I bet half pot. I think this is a situation where he's probably inelastic. We could go smaller because I don't think he's going to be folding more to a larger bet. So he calls, and then 2, that's actually a good hand. So had we checked and he bets, we call with that like top pair hand and probably snap off, his bet. At that point, he's probably betting with a king or a jack or a queen or something like that. It's possible he has the ace as well, but if we have an ace, it makes it less likely. So villain checks. At this point, I think typical players at this limit would likely lead if they have the flush, especially if they have the nut flush, because they're going to be afraid that they do not get paid. So if they check, we've got the flush, probably the set, 2 pair, top pair, basically all of this. And the question is, if I bet, what hands does he call with? I think he calls with the flush. And if he doesn't believe us, then he's going to call with 2 pair and top pair. I think middle pair might have a reason to fold. So we're looking at 66, 35%, 34%. We can bet on the smaller side, get those folds, but I think if we're betting, we're targeting these hands, these better pairs to fold. And would they? Yeah, I think they would. So I think for us, we're going for value with our flush. We're going for value with our straight. I think we go for some value with our set and 2 pair. So if we think about his hands top pair, I don't think we're betting all of our top pair. I think we're probably cutting it off at like ace 10. Yeah, top pair. Yeah, top kicker, other than the queen. So ace, queen, ace 10, I think are the 2 that we're going to probably be betting for a top pair. That's all value. If we know our player, then we could also kind of bet the nothing hands as a bluff. Even our weak pairs as a bluff, one of them. Weak pair, at least we've still beat unpaired hands. So I think we still have some showdown value with those. So I think I checked, which I think is okay. And villain shows aces, he shows a set. Which is unfortunate because I took that out. I assumed he would have raised. I would have assumed that he would have raised pre-flop, but he didn't, and he just check called. So that's, I think, our hand could have been played a little bit differently to save a little bit of money. It wouldn't have been played significantly different, but still, I think we could have bet less on the flop, accomplished the same goal, knowing that he probably has a bunch of hands that he's going to call on the flop means that I don't think we need to be c-betting as widely as I was suggesting. So even though this number is really high, when we look at his range, his range connects quite a bit with this flop. He's not going to be folding at the frequency that we need. It's going to be close, but I don't think he's going to be folding at the 78% level on this board. And then I think we probably just check behind on the turn. And if he bets on the river, we probably fold our hand. We give up. So let's take a note on this guy. He called 3 big blind from big blind versus button RFI with ace of hearts, ace of spades. He's out of position, and then check called. Check. Let's hear check call 50%. Check call 50%. Check on an ace of clubs, king of clubs, jack of spades, 7 of clubs, and 2 of hearts. All right, so we know that he could just call with aces. So not the greatest, but this is why we learn. I would have said that this actually works out pretty good for us, but I think there's a lot of cards that villain calls with, a lot of draws that villain calls with, and the draw got there on the turn. So the most obvious draw is that flush draw that he calls with, but he could have also had a queen or any of those pairs. So I think a turn we just check. We took our stab on the flop, which was probably incorrect, but then we just give up. All right, hopefully you enjoy this hand. If you do, look tomorrow for another.